Peace, 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 peace. It is just Sister Roo, Mawulisatemple, beautiful upstate New York, Hudson Valley. It is Saturn Day, and you know what that means. It is time for UnRead with my brother Nick. UnRead Book Review with Nick and Roo. We are here for the last gathering in December of 2025. So we are excited to be bringing to you a surprise week. What does that mean? For those of you who hang with us, you know surprise weeks mean that Nick has a book. I have no idea what it is. I have a book. He has no idea what it is. And we bring these books together and we see how they may or may not correspond to the theme of whatever it is we are talking about in this season. Like I said, we're closing out 2025. For those that ascribe to the end of the new year, it is the end of the new year. For the rest of us, we about to buckle down. It's good getting season right about now. It's hibernation season. And because of such, we always bring out the books. Things you can be doing over this break before the real new year comes, which is in spring. Can't wait for that. But we ain't going to rush this winter away because it has so much to offer. I'm excited. So I'm going to turn it over to my brother Nick, so he can give you guys some pieces and some hellos and some how you doings. And then we going to get started. What's up, Nick? How is your week?
What's going on, my sister Roo? What's going on, everybody out there? UnRead Book Review family. How y'all doing out there? You know, happy winter time. Happy winter solstice. Happy Capricorn season. All those things. I hope everyone is feeling wonderful out there, especially staying warm in this weather and keeping your spirits high during this season of dark and cold and holidays, holy days, craziness going on outside. I hope everyone is keeping their spirits high. Today's the 27th. We got 2 and the 7 together, those 2 moon / water numbers, giving us some extra dose of intuition and spirit, today, all adding up to a 9, which is all about us bringing you this inspiration through these books that we offer, and a little bit of creativity too in the way that we talk about them and deliver them. And we hope that you will add on to the conversation and help us expand and grow the conversation, our knowledge, as well as this platform, because it is an expansion day, number 3 universal day. So I'm excited to be here. Always excited about a surprise me week. So I'm ready to get into it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get into it too. I was like, oh, when we end on a surprise, I love that one. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know about you, but I always scramble to find a book that I'm like, he'll never think of this one. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, because you get to know a person, their library is, it gets a little predictable. But you know what? That's the beautiful thing about UnRead. We are showing you that no matter what our specialties are, no matter what our niches are, we have a wide variety of books on our bookshelves. And we suggest that for others. Read other kind of books. Be inspired. You never know what's out there that will definitely make an impact and even potentially change your life. So we love to bring these books to you. And these are unread books, reread books, recommended books, books that we love, books that we never heard of. So we are here with you learning just as we go along. And as we always say, just because you read a book once with one set of eyes, don't mean you can't go back and read them with another set of eyes. And that's one of the things I love about our reread. And that's books we bring it to you that may be unread right now, but we peek through them at some point. And so we are still sharing that information. Like I said, it's the end of December. I don't know about you, Nick, but we had a snowstorm. So I'm not going anywhere. So a book day for me, hands down, lovely. So I am ready. I am ready to rock and roll and share this information. I know I always make you go first, but I think I actually want to go first this week. I mean, tell me what's going on. How excited are you about your book? You haven't given any hints. So I am just like, what could it possibly be?
Yeah. I mean, listen, by all means, you can go first, and once we get the mine, uh, you'll see why I wasn't able to give any hints, because I wouldn't even know how to give any hints on this book. but yeah, it's interesting too, because in my mind I'm like, I don't know how she can outdo what she did in the last episode with that great cross of Henday. I don't
Woo!
know how. I don't know how she gonna follow that one up.
You know what? It took me almost a week to put that back on the shelf because I was so tempted to put it in the rotation right now. But as you know, for those of us who follow, Mawulisatemple has a fall and winter studies curriculum that we follow. Every year is something new and exciting, some old times and some new favorites. And so we are sticking to schedule. So I had to put that part of me that wants to do everything away and put that book back on the shelf. But definitely, Mysteries Across the Henday, definitely want to get on. I'm letting you know. I didn't even do it justice, to be honest. That book is just so beautiful, just a beautiful book. But today I have an old classic, so I love the classics. I'm a throwback kind of girl, so
Mhm.
so you know what I'm saying. So I'm happy about today's book.
Okay, yeah, yep. Well, listen, I love the classics. I love the new school. I love everything in between. But it's nothing like those classics. It's not. Yeah,
Nothing like them. Nothing like them.
yeah.
Well, again, welcome everyone. My name is Roo. This is my brother Nick. We are here with you as we are every other Saturday for UnRead Book Review with Nick and Roo. And we are excited to be bringing you some books this last Saturn day for us in December. So we're excited. So I'm going to go first this time. I know that
Go for
I
it.
usually let him go, but I'm so excited. And after that snowstorm yesterday, I feel like this book is even more important to talk about. So we're going to do it like this. I'm a woman of particular age. And because I am a woman of particular age, this means I'm getting up there, in my age. And I have things that I think about that, I didn't think about when I was a younger lady. Some of them I did and just couldn't address then. But here we are now. You're never too old to make a fresh start. And that is something I tell myself. So why am I starting this way? As a woman of a particular age, these upstate New York winters are getting to be quite challenging. All the shoveling of snow and the throwing of the salt and the storm wintry advisories out of nowhere get to be a little bit trying. And God knows for my bones, it be cutting up sometimes. So this book that I'm sharing with you is a book that I got that was going to help me not have to have so many of these cold winters. So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about investing today. Yes, Nick, I pulled out a book about finance. Yes, I did. This is The Lazy Person's Guide to Investing, one of the best old school throwback classics that I have in my collection. This is by Paul B. Farrell, PhD. He's a columnist, and he worked for CBS Market Watch. And this book was copyrighted in 2004. So 2004. So that means it's an old one. It's an older one. So we know that with some of this older information, especially in things like marketing, investing, some of it may seem outdated because it is. And so it is a challenge upon us to go out and find the updated information that would make this information still relevant, because it is. I love this book. So I am not a big investor. I'm not a big, let me just say, I come from a family of gamblers. I come from a family of gamblers, and that can do two things. That can either make you a gambler or make you the anti-gambler. And it did the latter to me. I'm like, I refuse. I'm like, wait, what? Oh my gosh. No. You know what I'm saying? Too many risks involved. However, as I've gotten older, I've understood a little bit more about finance. I do realize that it is a possibility to make smart decisions that will help you to be able to minimize your risk when you're doing something you even don't understand, such as investing. And so a book like this, A Lazy Person's Guide, this is something that speaks in a simple language. It speaks in a simple language, simple enough for those of us who have not gone to school to study finance to not be as intimidated by some of the language that's used in the world of finance. Now, Nick, I know you do a show on Friday nights on finance. So I said, I was so excited to bring this to you, but I said, I got to be on my P's and Q's because this is his field. This is what he knows. So I got to bring all the right things out of this book to be able to show why I brought it. So let me just read to you, if I can, the back here a little bit. It says, most people think that you have to buy and sell the right stocks at the right time to make big money on Wall Street. In this enlightening, entertaining guide, veteran financial commentator Dr. Paul Farrell shows you how to grow a seven-figure nest egg without midnight jitters, time-consuming study, or paying a nickel in commissions to stockbrokers and others who get their piece of the pie by helping themselves to a chunk of yours. Market is timing for chumps, says Dr. Farrell. You want a portfolio that works without having to sit through any schooling about what to buy, when to sell, how to mix and allocate, what to pay, where the heck is the economy going? This book is for you. This book teaches you how to create and use this kind of portfolio, and the excitement only comes from building your millionaire's nest egg. So this appealed to me because, again, I wasn't much interested in studying finance. You know, at the time when I was studying health and wellness, that was where my main focus was. You know, outside of that, you know, I studied criminal law a little bit, and so that is where I was safe at. But that is where I felt good at. When it came to law, in terms of law that we see in the course of the day for things like businesses and investments and all kinds of stuff like that, had no clue to be able to go in and look at that stuff, and definitely didn't feel qualified to be able to look at financial stuff and be able to say, I'm making an informed decision, you know, by myself. I was one of the people he talks about in the beginning of this book who, you know, who don't feel competent enough to be able to do it themselves. So they go and they throw all their money into these brokers and gurus because we believe that they know more than we do, when many times, as he explains, they are just guessing like we are. It's a hope and a prayer, you know. And he says some of the quotes that he has in here are really, 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 really funny, because that's the thing that I loved about this book. He made it very lighthearted. And it says, you know, that investing should be dull. You know, it should be like watching paint dry on a wall. It says, if you want excitement, take $800 and go to Vegas. It's not easy to get rich in Vegas, at Churchill Downs, or even at your Merrill Lynch. How about that, right? So my uncle used to work for Merrill Lynch, right? So that was the person in our family who talked to us a lot about money. He taught us about things like penny stocks and all kinds of stuff like that. So, you know, we had bank accounts when we were little. Back then the school actually used to have us, we would have a bank day and they would take us to Howard Savings Bank. I know that don't even exist anymore, but they would take us to Howard Savings Bank. We had these little bank books with an apple and a worm and a ruler on it, and you bring your little change and they would count your change. Well, you got to count your change for them, and then they count it back for you, and then they stamp it in the book. You know what I mean? And we had to do that every week. And it taught us that, it was smart to save. That's what we got from it, from that class. It was smart to save, because how are you going to buy books if you don't have no money? We didn't understand this. So our teacher, who used to usually buy us books, was like, well, I'm going to show you how to buy your own books. We loved it. He had us collecting pennies from the chair in the car, going in under the beds and looking for change in the house. And we would run to school with this change ready to deposit it in our accounts, because we were excited about working for something for our future. So again, it can be intimidating, but you can make it a lot of fun. I made bank books for my children when we were small. When they were small, I was homeschooling them, and that was part of how I taught them what I did about what little I knew about finance, in terms of balancing a bank book and things like that. That was stuff my mother taught me. She was an accountant, so that was important to her. So these little things that I learned along the way, while I wouldn't say I feel comfortable enough to go to the stock market and jump out there and say yay, nay, I can say that the little things, if you break them down for me, it's easy for me to understand. And that's something he did in this book. So in the first chapter here, he says something that's very important. He said, lazy investing is a family affair. He said, everybody has to be on the same page. If we are working towards a goal, we all have to be working towards a goal. So that's important to remember. And I thought that was an important part for him to put out. He says, you can do it yourself. You don't need them. Stop making yourself believe that you can't learn this stuff no matter how old you are. You can take little bits and pieces, start to digest it, and work from there. He actually gives little exercises in this book. Again, this book was put out in 2004, so some of the exercises might be a little bit older, but you can apply new information from the stock market to it today and be able to get some understanding of the formulas that he was giving you, because that's the most important part, is the formula, not so much the stocks that he used as examples. So he says you have to find a cure for information overload. He said there's so much information out there. Everybody trying to tell you how to be a guru. Everybody trying to tell you that they can be the one. Their system is the way to help you make this passive income that's going to put you up and set you up for the rest of your life. But without that information, you won't be able to do it. It's so much you'll never be able to take it in. And he lets you know that. He says there's so much new information is being supplied every day to this industry. And he says, so what you have to do is you have to find some tried and true people that you will read their information and potentially build from the things that they've learned in their journey. Okay. One of the things I wanted to point out, just as who we are, Nick, is in the beginning when he's giving his thank yous and everything. I found it, it made me tickle actually, when the first person he shout out, it says, he'd like to give a special thanks to 5 incredible mentors who encouraged him to take the road less traveled. The very first person he mentions is Joseph Campbell. One of, in my opinion, one of the most slept on metaphysicians to ever give some words. You feel me? And he says, an extraordinary man who taught me about the hero of 1,000 faces and the power of myth. And then he goes on to thank Carl Jung, the mystical godfather who spoke to him across time in his memories, dreams, and reflections. And then he says, Bill Wilson, who taught me so much, and those of us in the program, how to live the impossible dream one day at a time. And to Calvin Hall, whose serendipity was much more than a classy restaurant in Manhattan and a magical dance of meditation in Soho, and most of all, his wonderful wife. Again, he has a base of people of information that inspired him, and from that foundation, he was able to go out and find other information to help him in turn be able to put this together. On continuing in on the business side of it, he talks about different methods of investing, and one of them is called the couch potato portfolio. Okay, here we go.
Oh, hold on, let me put you on full screen. All right,
yeah, the couch potato portfolio. And what that is he's basically like, you can lay on your couch and throw a potato and do these kind of investments. And he says the trick is to keep it simple trick to building your own couch potato formula. You only need 2 funds and a 50-50 asset allocation. And the mix will give you all the diversification you'll ever need for your natural life through the bear markets and the bull markets. Okay, so again, that language, it used to be so intimidating to me because it's like bulls and what did you say? Where's the money going? This fund, that fund. And he talks about Vanguard and stuff like that. And the Vanguard 500 index. He gives he gives some ideas here for the for how to deal with the machine. He calls it the super hype of the machine. He said you will never beat the machine. He said you'll never beat Wall Street, so don't try. He said the best thing to do is learn how to get in and get out, and what to sit and learn from. Okay, so again, he gives these short portfolios. He has one called the Coffee House portfolio, where he saves, diversifies, and uses the index. And then he has again the best and funniest portfolios in 1999, because 1999 it was talking about everything shutting down and crashing, and how everybody was throwing stocks away and buying up other stocks. So he talks about that a lot. And again, he uses different companies here and their information, and I think it would be a nice challenge to go back in and look and see where these places are on the market now, what they look like now from 2004. I thought that would be some cool homework to do for those who are interested in learning a bit more. I'm gonna stop right here for a second and see if you want to add on it all here. Have you heard of this author before, and have you seen this book before, since again this is in your field of expertise?
Yeah, somewhat. I'm not the expert in it, but what she means is I I seem to know a little bit more than than she does when it comes to the finance. But no, I'm not familiar with this author or this work, which is interesting because it's a very marketable title there. Investing for the wait. Let me put the title back up.
Lazy Person's Guide to Investing.
Yeah. Let me put it back up on the screen.
And this came out after a couple of years. I think what helped me find this book was I was into a lot of those for dummies books, like real estate for dummies, banking for dummies, accounting for dummies. I didn't have no problem with the titles at all.
You didn't take offense.
I didn't take offense to none of it because I was like, all right, well, give it here. You know what I'm saying? I'll
Right.
take it. And this one right here, right on the front of it, when I saw it, I remember laughing because I said, oh, he was trying to get at my soul. It said a book for procrastinators, the financially challenged, and everyone who worries about dealing with money. I was like, oh, he just spoke directly to my soul. So that's right on the front of the book, and I thought it was eye catching. It was funny, you know, it makes you take your guard down a little bit because when you think about it, you know, so much is riding sometimes on your financial well being. I am no longer married. You know what I'm saying? I remember a lot of that stuff I left to my husband, to do. That was his part of the job was, maintaining the bills and looking at the insurance and all that stuff like that. That wasn't my job. My job was to take care of the children and him and the household. I didn't have to worry about all the other stuff. Of course, I handled the household expenses in terms of what applied to taking care of the children. But when it came to setting us up for our future, while he did ask me what some of my goals were, primarily it was him that was deciding what we would actually end up doing. And so, that's neither here nor there. All I can suggest to anyone in any situation is a base knowledge of this stuff is important for anyone, whether you are the primary breadwinner or not. It's just important to know.
Yes.
It's just important to know. And I found that out years later. Having all adult children now, I look at, and that's why I said I'm a woman of a particular age, and how, this whole winter thing has, I always planned on traveling in the winter. You know what I'm saying? I always planned on every time it get a little bit of chill in the air, it's time to pack my bags and go someplace warm. Cause that was what my husband promised me. He was like, we'll be able to do that. You won't have to deal with the winters. You won't have to shovel. And then in the spring, you can come back and just be beautiful. Just come back and be beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Act like you never left. But again, not putting the money in the right places, not being consistent, not being transparent, we got left in a position where we didn't have what we thought we were going to have, and things didn't turn out the way that we thought that they would. Again, learning how to trust people, trusting the wrong people. And that's why one of the things that stuck out to me about this was, even though you may have to go to someone else, he encourages you to have a firm and grasp understanding on what it is you're going to ask for help with and what help looks like in that area. You need to be specific about what you need, from an individual. You can go in and say, well, I need you to help me with this aspect of this particular thing. Go in letting them know I do have prior knowledge of this, and this is not going to be a fleece me type situation where you're getting rich off of my hopes of getting rich one day. You know what I mean? So, and again, the thing about this is that he keeps things very, very simple. He talks about the six laziest strategies, and I'll run them off for you. I won't go into big detail. The first one is market timing is for chumps and chimps. And so he says basically throwing darts at a portfolio doesn't work. He says 2, be frugal, save, and avoid financial obesity. I had never heard that language before, financial obesity. You know what I mean? And it basically came to being something that we know. And that's why I say it's important to find somebody that can explain things in terms that you understand. Because when I started to read further about what financial obesity was, it was the same thing my mother taught us, which was you don't live above your means.
Ah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't make yourself financially obese and where you can't carry your weight around. You see what I'm saying? So that spoke directly to me. It says the power of compounding is explosive. Diversification is the lost art of being average. Buy quality and hold, and you'll never sell. Tortoises consistently beat hares. So slow and steady wins the race. So again, like I said, when you start to understand some of the terminology that they use, you can quickly begin to apply it to stuff that you may have picked up on in your life and didn't even know. I tell my children all the time, I didn't get here by accident. It was a whole lot of trial and error and things that I seen and didn't see and things that I have to revisit and etc. And this again is one of those things where you're going to have to deal with finances regardless. This is just something you have to deal with if you plan on walking this journey. And if you want to walk it well, like I do, you know what I mean, and live in the way that I'm used to living, you have to be prepared and you have to be smart and you have to make wise decisions. And the only way to do that is to be as educated as you can in, you know, in investing. And if it is intimidating for you, you need to find tools that help to explain it better. You know, again, this book was done in 2004. Things were different. Now we have so much technology, but again, overload. You say, but you can find places now that will explain investing to you. ABC 123. You know, YouTube, all these different places, Instagram and what do you call it? The TikToks. All I'm sure is places all over that you know you have people breaking these foundational ideas down and these ideals down. But it is important that you truly understand it and that you do your own due diligence, and that way you are responsible. And that's one of the things I liked about this book as well, is that he puts your finances back in your hand. You can't blame nobody at the end of the day, whether you succeed or fail, except for yourself, because it's in your hands. And ultimately it always is. Even if you give it to a broker, it's in your hands, because now you've made a decision to trust someone outside yourself to do for you what you would do for you. And that's a lot.
Mm.
You know, that's a lot of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And that also requires the person to really know you. And unfortunately in this time, like many industries, you are just a number to somebody. They don't really know your personal thing. They don't know that you want to sit back and be able to do art all day and comic books and play with cats and you know do, and they don't know that you want to do that. They don't care. They like, oh, she want to make this amount of money, so that's what we're going to try to make it. But they don't understand the personal story that goes with it. They don't understand why it's important to me. You know what I'm saying? It's not important to me to have money to keep up and look like everybody else. It has to do with me having the autonomy to be able to be free to do the things that I wasn't able to do when I had my nose to the grindstone all these years and now don't have anything to show for it. Because that's where a lot of people fall down as well. And he addresses that some of us of a particular age have worked our whole lives and don't have two nickels to rub together. And it's not because we were frivolous. It's not because we were spendthrifts. It's because nobody ever taught us how to take what we had and make it stretch further. Now, for I will say this, as a mother, I learned how to make a dollar out of 15 cents real early. But making that dollar out of 15 cents, I was making that dollar to be able to prepare the meals and everything else. I wasn't making $1.15 so I could put 15 cents away. That's what I really should have been learning, how to make a, you see what I'm saying? Take that 15 and add $1 to it instead of just making that 15 $1.
Mm.
And that may be a very simple and plain explanation, but it's the best. Like that's how I figured it out for me. And even now, that's how I look at my investing as well. What am I doing to make sure that there's some excess? So if I do meet a challenge, I can still stand without buckling. But sometimes you buckle because things just happen. You get sick, you get laid off a job closes, you get hurt on the job. You can't do the same work anymore. You can't work as many hours anymore. You had to move unexpectedly, and now that's an unexpected cost, or you have a car accident and now you got to buy a new car. So it's all these different things, these variables come up that can unstabilize your financial situation. And it's not because you were a poor financial provider. I made great money when I made it, but you get hurt at a job or you get sick and you can't work in that field anymore. And you quickly see that your savings will dwindle before you know it. And you can't be embarrassed either. See, that's the thing. He said they try to keep you embarrassed, because if you're embarrassed, you won't say, hey, I need to start over from zero again. And that's one of the things he does in here, is he talks about starting over from zero, no matter how old you are, and having the confidence and the courage to be able to say, I am going to meet these goals. Even though, some of them I have to sit on like the tortoise, and some of them I have to move fast like the scorpion. You know what I mean? But he does offer what he calls idiot-proof portfolios for the financially challenged. And he says, yes, Charlie Brown, you can save and invest, right? And then it says he does a chapter of where do active money managers put their own money. I think that's important when we are asking someone to help us, or we looking at companies. How do they invest their money? Where's their money invested at? Because at the end of the day, you know what? They not trying to take a loss. So I want to do what you doing. You know what I mean? Where your money going? So your money growing, I want my money to grow too. What you mean you scared to put your money in there? Well, don't put my money in there. You know what I mean? If you're not going to put yours in there, don't put mine in there. You feel me? So, and that's what he talks about. People having a lack of confidence in their own aggressive management strategy. You have to be like, no, this is not going to work for me. These people, if you are hiring someone to do this work for you, you have to be very clear. Communication. I tell people that is one of the key things in any relationship, communication. And this is no different. You have to be able to clearly state what it is you are looking for and looking to do and your desired outcomes. So this person can be able to either say yay or nay, we can move in that direction. And you need someone honest enough to say, I can't help you. And a lot of times you won't find that, unfortunately. Unfortunately, you won't find a lot of people be like, well, you know what? That might be a little bit more. Let me refer you to somebody else. Nobody wants to look like they don't know stuff. So we're going to have to do something about that. Stay away from those people. Finally, I just want to talk about discipline. Discipline is required when you're dealing with finances, just like when you're dealing with anything else. But in finances, especially in the world that we in today, being disciplined is extremely important. One of the things that I'm very grateful for is I've never been a spendthrift. So, money don't burn no holes in my pockets. I can hold it. I can sit on it. But like I said, I could hold it and sit on it, but it wasn't growing. I had to remove the fear, the barrier of fear, to be able to say, I need to invest in something that's going to continue to make money. It's sitting in here, but if it's $100 sitting here, all it's going to ever be is $100 until I start taking away from it or adding to it. So, I just encourage everyone, especially those of us who are of a particular age, to really start looking at your finances and get yourself in a position where you can stand and say, look, I can live like this. You know, it's embarrassing for a lot of people to have to ask for money. I know I've had to ask for help, and it is not fun. It is not fun. It is not fun. And for anybody who's listening that I borrowed money from at some time in my life on my journey, it wasn't easy to ask you. You know what I'm saying? And so with people understanding that, I think the more of us would get together and realize that some of us are dealing with the same issues. Things, old traditional things like susus help to save people, individuals. You know, as a widower, you know, or divorcee, you know, sometimes you don't have anybody else to invest with. If you have a small community group that y'all invest with, this can help. If we got 6 or 7 people in the same position, we all widowers, we all, you know, we're dependent on our spouses to help us to the end of our journey, and we no longer have these spouses. Now we can start to build with each other because we understand where each other's at. You know, so getting with like minds, again, just like with any place, getting with like minds and people who understand the importance of investing, and no matter what time, no matter how small or how large. And I think that's the other thing, that's the last downfall, I think, is that people think you have to invest big. You don't. You know, just like a bill can grow a little bit at a time, your money grows the same way. You know, 1 month you bill 400, then the next minute is 600, then the next minute is 800. You can do the same thing with building your finances if you're smart and you learn how to be more disciplined, put your money in the right direction, know what it is you want to do, have clear, defined goals and desired outcomes. And again, get the best information you can and make sure that you have a firm grasp on that information before you act on it. And don't be afraid to ask for help no matter what. Put the embarrassment to the side. My mama used to say, tell the truth and shame the devil, because you ain't going to shame me. You feel me? So when you need help, ask for it. For me, I did. And I found books like this, and I found people who understood these type of investing platforms and how to put together strategies for people who were starting over, you know, people who were starting at a later age. And I love that they quote Warren Buffett in here, because for those who understand, Warren Buffett didn't start making his big money till he was after 50. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's hope everywhere. You know what I mean? And following up, he does have um a complete library for America's laziest investors in the back, where he mentions some of the books that he used for different things. Do-it-yourself investing, the psychology of money, um, financial giants. Again, reading about people who have done or doing the same things you want to do is important. Brilliant minds of American millionaires. Again, the different type of strategies for going in, and the pillars of investing. So it's a great book. Like I said, it's an older book. You may need to update some of the companies that you research and the information that it gives you, but it is definitely one that will stay on my shelf because it is inspiring. And even when I was reading through it, just to bring it back, I said this requires a reread from front to back again. So I think this may actually end up on either the spring or the summer reading list for Mawulisatemple. So for those who are into the studies with us, this might be one of our books coming up. So get ready. We're going to help you be wealthy in every way, in your pockets, in your body, in your mind, in your spirit. We here for it. We are here for it. We want you to be sound in every way, because this life is a gift. And the last thing we should be doing every day, all day, is worrying about money. It's really, really depressing, and it keeps the creative flow at bay. And we are creators, and that is what we are supposed to be doing. So I encourage people, create, and you do that by building a solid foundation. And this is a way that you can begin to do that, even if you're young, or like I said, a person of particular age, and you starting to realize that you may have to finish out this journey alone. So you still need your money though, right? You know what I mean? So I still need to travel, you know. So because of that, I recommend this book highly. It's one of my favorites, and I took really good care of it. As you see, I have my unread bookmarks for everybody who don't have theirs. We got a special going on. You better go get you some. But this is a great book. I recommend it. Like I said, it's going to make itself back onto the rotation, just because when I was bringing it to present, it just really pulled me back in and reminded me that there are little things I can be doing right now that will help me to secure myself and secure my future. So that is my offering for this week, The Lazy Person's Guide to Investing, Paul Farrell.
Man, that's a beautiful, beautiful offering. And before we continue on, shout outs to the chat and to the people that's out there. Shout out to
Peace,
Portnoy
everyone.
Starseed Podcast in the building. And shout out to Taylor B TV and Numeralytics. One of our, well, not one of one of the programs that we sponsor UnRead Book Review on. So definitely head over to Taylor B TV on YouTube or Numeralytics on YouTube for your astronumerology content, and also your cultural content. So shout outs to them. And yeah, man, you said a whole lot, in terms of this investing. And definitely a few things stand out, especially the information overload. If people thought they had information overload in 2004 when this book was published, it is much worse now in 2025 going into 2026. The information overload is crazy, especially with the advent of the internet. And I mean, the internet was around back then, but now everyone has high-speed internet and Wi-Fi, so a lot more people are online. A lot more people are giving information online, and it's a big business too. Attention is a currency. Everyone vying for your attention to listen to their information, their financial information. But asset management is a huge business, and that's what Rue was referring to, as far as these brokers and people who manage your accounts and make your investments for you. That's a big business. They're not just managing your money for free. They're getting paid a percentage of what you contribute to that account. And so you're seeing a lot more of those type of companies, wealth management, financial services, a lot more of those businesses popping up. So it's important. Yeah, so it's definitely important that you vet these companies to make sure that they're, most importantly, following the law, following the financial laws, and then also to making sure that they're getting to know you as both a person and as an investor. One of the first things that every financial services company should do is they should determine what type of investor you are. The book that Rue's offering, The Lazy Person's Guide to Investing, it sounds like it's more so for like long-term growth and long-term investing. But you need to find out if you're an aggressive investor or if you're a conservative investor. And age plays a big part of that. depending on your age, you can afford to be a little bit more aggressive, or it's better for you to be more conservative. So sitting down with the right person, the right company, they will help you determine what type of investor you should be based on, like I mentioned, such factors as your age, your income, also your preference for what kind of return you want to receive. So they might have you fill out some type of survey or some type of assessment to figure out what type of investor you are. So that's important when it comes to vetting asset managers and building the discipline. That almost seems like a contradiction for the book that for the audience's book is written for, because in order to build that discipline, you gotta come out of that laziness. But I think it's very helpful that he mentions those psychologists and those metaphysicians and people that deal with the mind, because it's not just knowing the financial information, having a financial education. You have to have the right mindset going into it as well. And your relationship with money, as you've been socialized and reared over time, whether your relationship with money is based on what you've experienced in your family and how you've seen your parents or your caretakers deal with money and their attitude with money and how they talk about money. All of that is important to address before you even get to just learning all of the jargon and what to invest in and how to invest. It's all connected, and it's all important. And books like these and our experiences also remind us that investing takes us out of the mindset of putting all of our eggs into one basket. And I'm not even talking about investment baskets. I'm just talking about income and how we put all our eggs into one basket by depending on this one job that we're working. Like, yeah, we're gonna get this job, we're gonna work it until we retire, and then we're gonna collect our retirement, just taking for granted that we'll be healthy enough to work that job, or that job is going to stay open. We're not going to get replaced by anyone else. We see both and it's not just in the government. We hear with the current administration, with a lot of governmental workers, federal governmental workers, they're losing their jobs, because of budget cuts. But it's not just happening in the government; it's happening in the private sector too. I'm speaking to a few people, and they're telling me that their jobs are closing down or downsizing. People are getting laid off, because the company isn't making the money that they thought they were making. So it's happening both in the government and in the private sector. So this information in this book, The Lazy Person's Guide to Investing, is definitely more relevant now than ever. And like Roo said, all you have to do is maybe update the companies that you're investing in, but how you evaluate these companies to see if they're worth investing those principles have not changed. They still apply back in 2004 and in 2026. So yep, very, very relevant and important book there. So Roo, I'm not sure how deeply you've gone into this book as far as gathering the principles and putting them into action, but have you been able to benefit from what's in the book? Or well, not benefit, but applied some of the strategies?
I have. You talked about what type of investor you are. I mentioned, and you also mentioned that if you're going to be working with brokers or others, that they should get to know you as a person and also, your financial goals, etc. One of the key things I said when I started this afternoon was that I came from a family of gamblers. And I've watched some really bad things happen from people making poor decisions. Things like one day you have a house and the next day you don't. My father was an extreme gambler, and when they say he bet the farm, he would bet the farm. And I watched my mother work so very hard to save money, and I watched him just pour money out the house. And so it made me a lot more frugal, I think, than many. So when it came to people telling me, oh, put this $1,000 here or this $500 here, I'm looking at them like, you can't be serious. You know what I could do with $500 or $1,000? You know what I'm saying? I can't be putting in no place and just letting it sit. But when I started to understand more about allowing things to grow interest and investing in the future versus the right now, it did allow me to soften my gaze a bit when it came to the looking at the possibilities, because the opportunities are always around you. Somebody always got a get quick scheme. I grew up in the era of multi-level marketing and all of that stuff like that. So, I'm used to people in there, as my mother called them, harebrained ideas. So it's what you invest in. And while I have tried my hand at investing in the market, um, I found at the end of the day, one of the things that really has worked for me is investing in people. I am a firm and very vocal supporter of the people I support. I am one of the biggest cheerleaders. Nick, you know that. If I'm down for you, you got a cheerleader forever, and can't nobody cheer for you like I do. So I found that investing in people has helped me, because that allowed me to then focus on what industries I wanted to invest in, because it was the industries that some of these people that I was supporting, were a part of. Outside of that, I started to learn about the old tried and trues, things that'll always be around no matter what, businesses that survive disasters. So I did a lot of study about, the Great Depression, which, my grandmother had already, given us some insight to what it was like to be in those times. And so investing in companies that are tried and true, that have been around, for a long time, and not necessarily always were in the forefront, but making quiet money. Things like Smuckers. I will forever eat peanut butter and jelly. So investing in jelly for me made sense. You know what I mean? And that was how I kind of started to approach things. I use, you use household products. So looking into the industry to see products and things that I can invest in that was already a part of my life made it much more functional for me. It made me understand this is what happens when you spend money on said product, then said company does better and you do better. So that was how I started to approach that. And it works for me. It's a lot more I would like to do, because again, I have not been very aggressive. I haven't had the opportunity to be, but I believe that if I continue to do my due diligence and trust my intuition, that was one of the things that, you had mentioned about your mindset about money and following your intuition. That's something that Joseph Campbell, who is one of his mentors, talks about, changing your mindset and, trusting your intuition when it comes to what it is you need in this world financially. Because again, we see these dollars and cents, those things are made up. It's all about currency energy exchanges. So, where am I prepared to put my energy? That was what this helped me kind of look at again from a different perspective, from a more practical place, because from the spiritual place I understood it perfectly, you know and from the street space I understood it perfectly. Scared money don't make no money. That's what my father used to tell us all the time when in the midst of his gambling. He's like, if you scared, you ain't gonna make no money. So you have to learn how to trust yourself. And that's what this has taught me mostly, is if you do your due diligence, things can happen, just weird stuff. But if you do your due diligence and you know what your desired outcome is, and you know your approach that you want to take, it can be very exciting. And it has been for me. And I'm excited about the future, because I know what it is I want to build in terms of legacy. And I know that requires me to build the bigger pocketbook, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that
Yeah.
answered the
Right.
question.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes, absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's a universal benefit that people can gain from this book, because it's one of those foundational items that you need to address and rectify before you proceed further. And this can be used as a great companion text. Let's say if you wanted to collect the offerings that we've been bringing to you on this show, you
Yes.
can pair this with The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham that I brought,
Yes.
a couple of months ago. So that's another classic investing book, but that one is like classic, like that one goes way back.
Yes. Yes, it does. And I actually thought about that when I was choosing this book. And like I said, I'm always, I remember when I brought the marketing book to UnRead, and it was an old school marketing book. Oh, printing flyers was still in there. You know what I mean? But one of the things that I learned is that, like you said, this information is foundational. You may have to look at different, stocks and things like that, because obviously the market that he was looking at and the market that we are in is very different. You know what I'm saying? For a variety of reasons. But it just really served to remind me that yeah, you need some intelligence, some financial intelligence. We talk about emotional intelligence, and we talked about all the different types of intelligence, Nick, and you and I have. And financial intelligence is definitely one of them. And the way that strengthen that financial intelligence and learn to use it in your daily is by really understanding, going in and really understanding, and not walking away until you do. You have to really be determined. That's part of the discipline. Is you can't, this stuff can be overwhelming, especially when you're dealing with the real world in real time. Let's put that out there. So you got the person who, because I've seen this, and I'm sure you have too. You got the person who has gone to school, they've done everything they're supposed to do. They went and got their associates, and they got their bachelors, and they got their masters, and now they working at Burger King. You know what I mean? And it's through no fault of their own. They just, this world has it set up where if you don't have even if you have a plan, you have to have a plan for your plan, because things are constantly changing. But that foundational information is what's going to save us. You know what I mean? That foundational information, this is what saves us. And I would put this amongst it, because even something as simple as for the entrepreneur, knowing how to pay yourself. Knowing how to pay yourself. Let's say you are fortunate enough to leave your job and work for yourself full time. Do you know how many people don't get a paycheck the first couple of years of their business?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The first couple of years, I remember the first couple of years of my business, I was like, what am I even doing, yo? I'm spending way more money than I'm making. And
Mm.
I'm tired. You know what I'm saying? All the time. You know, at least with the boss, I could punch out at 5 o'clock and be done with it. But once you working for yourself, it's like all day, every day. Let's get it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you even have to learn how to put a balance with that, because that can become overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you fall into that information overload, because you're trying to do everything. Find one thing, learn it, apply it, see how you like it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be what I suggest.
Yep.
You know, you got some really interesting stocks out here right now that don't cost a lot of money to get in on. You know, needless to say, for those of us who want to understand Bitcoin, who we can send them to for Bitcoin? Nick, we can send them to people for Bitcoin and for Forex and all these different things, because we got people in our networks that this is what they do.
Yeah. Well, you you want, once you get the names, you let them know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You
I'm
know,
not.
but
Yeah.
I mean, again, these are books that, you know, if they're written in simple ways, you know, that's why I said to you, when I would see those books for dummies, I wouldn't get offended, because for what? You know, I don't know these things. I need you to break it down in little pieces, because I got the whole world I'm dealing with out here. I ain't got time to go back to school.
Right.
You know what I mean? I done been to school 17 times. I need to do some of that work. You know, you can go to school, but for so long. And that's me saying that. Oh my gosh. I think I just broke out in a sweat just saying that I couldn't go to school all the time. I love to go to school all the time. That could be my full-time job. You know what I mean? But since it's not, you know, I have to secure my future some kind of way. And this foundational information works. I wanted to point out something really quick, something funny. Well, two things funny, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to let you go. You talked about the internet. Guess who he gives a shout out to in here? AOL.
Oh, I'm like, what?
It says, an AOL Time Warner Company. I could have hollered, because I was just telling my daughter, AOL would have you sitting there with your hands on your head like, please just connect. Please just one time for 5 minutes, just connect. But some of y'all will never know that pain. So kudos to you. And finally, I want to say this. As a woman of a particular age, I have gotten a little more, you know, free and willing to take some risk. And the wild thing that I've done just for this episode was I bought $2 scratch off tickets. This is $1. This is $1. Who knows? I might be rich. So this is for my dad. Shout out to my dad. And his scratch off tickets, because that was a thing. The picket was a sure financial staple for him, and the scratch off cards came later. So shout out to my dad for his lack of financial discipline that helped to lead towards mine. And if I do win on one of these cards, at least I'll send him a thank you card. So love you, Dad.
Yep. See, she's not completely scarred from, from that gambling trauma. She's not completely scarred.
Not completely. I still got a little bit. I figure it's $2. You know, if I can scratch off and get, 10 extra or my lucky sevens, who knows? And so I have to update you guys and let you know, but there'll be signs if I won. We'll be talking to you from Barnes and Noble, right, Nick?
Yeah, right. The shopping spree.
We'll be talking to you from Barnes and Noble. We'll be like, live from Barnes and Noble, unread.
You just gave me an idea. Huh.
Yes.
You just
inspiration.
Yeah, you just gave me an idea for later.
All right. I love it.
Yes. Well, my book. Let me go ahead and take this banner down, so we can go ahead and get into my book. So the reason why I couldn't give you any hints on my book, because I don't know what this book is about. So, but the reason why I'm bringing it is because I had to decide what I was going to bring, and I just went with the synchronicities. You know, those synchronicities where you either see something or you hear something repeated, and I'm like, okay, it must be a sign. So on 2 occasions within the past couple of weeks, I heard this book mentioned, and I had the book, but I never read it. I never opened it. I don't know what it's about. So my offering for this episode 37 of UnRead is the Gene Keys.
Ooh.
Embracing Your Higher Purpose by
Ooh.
yeah, there we go. By Richard Rudd. Yeah, Richard Rudd. Yeah. And it's a thick book too.
It's a thick one. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I'll go ahead and put the banner up there.
Okay.
You know, because I got this virtual background thing going on.
Right.
Now, I was listening to, once again, shout out to Prenoia Starseed Podcast. I was listening to one of the other brother star seeds on there. I can't remember if it was Adonis or if it was Patah, but one of those brothers mentioned the Gene Keys or made a reference to it. I'm like, hey, I got that book. And then some other instance, I can't remember, I heard it, but someone else mentioned the Gene Keys. I'm like, hey, I got that book. I don't know what they talking about, but I got that book. But I got to give a shout out to Jameer, because Jameer gave me this book. She gifted it to me. Jameer. She gifted it to me a couple years ago, maybe like 2 years ago. So man, let's see what we can take away or kind of grasp from from this book here. And of course, it's called Embracing Your Higher Purpose as the subtitle. It was published in 2009, first edition published in 2009, original. And then there was a reprint in, there was a reprint in 2011, second edition, then the third edition in 2015. So I'm assuming this is the third edition.
Okay.
But let's see what we can figure out about this book, the Gene Keys. We're gonna go on this exploration and this adventure together.
Sounds like a plan.
So on the back it says it's a spiritual companion for life. Since its very first publication, the Gene Keys has been hailed as a spiritual classic, a visionary synthesis of the great spiritual traditions of all ages. It plumbs the depths of the human wound, revealing it as the very path that leads us to the peak of human consciousness. Arcane yet with many practical applications, logical yet with great poetic subtlety, the Gene Keys is a spiritual companion to contemplate over the course of a lifetime.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay is right. And it's I'm not familiar with this publishing company, but it's published by a company called Watkins, but it says sharing wisdom since 1893. So I thought that was interesting. And then it says this edition of the book was published both in the United States and in the UK. In the dedication, it says, to all who are reading or hearing these words, may your heart burst open in unconditional love. May your mind be illuminated by infinite peace. May your body be flooded by the light of your essence. May all whom you touch in this life through your thoughts, your words, and your deeds be transformed by the radiance of your presence.
Ashe.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'll do is, because I never read anything from the introduction or how to use this book, but I'll share with the table of contents, and I will share some introductory material and see that if that'll give us some clarification on what this book is about. But each chapter is dedicated to a gene key. The gene keys are numbered.
Okay.
So there are 64 gene keys, and they each have a particular title. So, for example, the first gene key says from entropy to syntropy, entropy, freshness, beauty. And then the second gene key, returning to the one, dislocation, orientation, and unity. So, like I said, it's 64 in there. And like I showed you, it's a pretty thick book. It's over 500 pages long. But let's see how to use this book. There's some acknowledgments. There's a foreword. So let's see what it says in the foreword. So since I'm not familiar with this book, it won't be a whole lot that I need to share. So I'm sure you all won't mind me doing just a little bit of reading, because this is my first time. It's almost like I just bought this book today. That's how unfamiliar I am with it. But it says, "Welcome to the Gene Keys. This book is an invitation to begin a new journey in your life. Regardless of outer circumstances, every single human being has something beautiful hidden inside them. The sole purpose of the Gene Keys is to bring that beauty forth, to unveil your incandescence, the eternal spark of genius that sets you apart from everyone else. Recent breakthroughs in biology point towards an amazing truth. Your DNA, the coiled code that has made you who you are today, is not in control of your destiny. Rather, it is your general attitude to life that tells your DNA what kind of person you want to become. This means that every thought, feeling, word, and action that you make in life is imprinted in every single cell of your body. Negative thoughts and emotions cause your DNA to contract, whereas positive thoughts and emotions cause it to expand and relax."
That part.
Mm-hmm. This process is going on all the time, from the moment you come into the world to the moment you leave. You alone are the architect of your evolution. When you fully embrace the implications of this truth, then your journey has begun. Even if you read no further, this truth can transform your life. It is reflected in the lives of all great saints and spiritual teachers throughout history, that inside each of us lies vast potential and beauty, and it is limited only by the way we see ourselves in the world around us. Our
Facts.
planet is in the midst of a vast transition in which humanity is playing a central role. A great quantum leap is in the air. Gene Keys offer us a vision of a very different world than the one we see today. They show us a world where human beings are governed by higher principles such as love, forgiveness, and freedom. Such a world is not a dream. It is the next stage of our natural evolution, and it depends upon each of us unlocking the higher purpose that lies hidden in our DNA. I hope as you enter and explore the wonderful labyrinth of the Gene Keys, that they will ignite the spark of your highest potential, and that you will embrace the beauty of your personal dream and allow it to grow inside you. And as your higher purpose begins to impact those you love and the world around you, may you join your genius with all of us who dare to dream of a higher and better world. And together, let us make that dream a reality. So that's the foreword of the book from the author. And it kind of reminds me of another book that I read 2 summers ago. I think it was called The DNA and the Law of Resonance. Very similar idea where we can alter the field and what we attract to us based on our inner beliefs, attitudes, mental energy. So I could see some parallels there. And like I said, I'm not at my usual location, so I don't have my library with me to pull that book off the shelf too.
Right.
But maybe I'll bring that to a future unread episode. But the last thing that I'll share is how to use this book, because one of the things I'm wondering if this is one of those books that you need to read from cover to cover, because it's pretty big, 500 pages there. So let's see how to use this book. Okay, so it says the Gene Keys teachings are designed as an open system that you can explore it in a wide variety of ways. Unlike many teachings, they are a self-teaching transmission that awakens within you rather than a structure imposed from the outside through a set discipline or teacher. In this sense, the Gene Keys are an adventure that you can tailor to your own life, moving at your own pace and trusting in your intuition and imagination. Okay, like that's a
I like that.
individual, and it's not a rigid, structured kind of teaching or learning. Um, so contemplation. The great potential of the Gene Keys as a teaching is to awaken a powerful new creative impulse inside you. And as you follow this impulse, you begin to witness the emergence of your genius. The central technique that makes this possible is contemplation. Contemplation is something of a forgotten spiritual path. Unlike meditation, it does not completely bypass the mind. Rather, it uses the mind in the playful way to open new inner pathways inside our brain and body. It is through sustained, gentle contemplation on the Gene Keys that we can effect subtle changes in our biochemistry. The Gene Keys are designed to be contemplated and digested over time. Each key contains a unique message, and each message takes time to absorb before you feel a change occurring in your life. Contemplation is far more than simply thinking about something. It is direct imbibing of a universal truth at a physical, emotional, and mental level. Therefore, it is a good idea to begin your voyage into the Gene Keys with a sense of relaxedness and patience. To enter on a path of contemplation is to slow down inwardly in order that you begin to see things around you more clearly. So it sounds like those 64 Gene Keys in there, you more than likely you're probably able to go in any order or pick out one and contemplate on it until it becomes very real and tangible in your life, until you ultimately make those changes in your biochemistry, in your DNA. So we got a code of consciousness. The Gene Keys are a new code of consciousness. To apply them directly to your life, you need to know which codes apply specifically to you and how. So knowing the codes and which one, knowing yourself. All biological codes are imprinted at specific times, and those times can tell us a great deal about you. When you read the introduction to the Gene Keys, you will learn about your hologenetic profile. Your profile is calculated from the time, date, and place of your birth. It sounds like astrology there a little bit, and can be accessed free online at thegenekeys.com. And once you have your hologenic profile, your journey of contemplation begins in earnest, as it highlights specific Gene Keys that have a powerful bearing on your purpose, your relationships, and your prosperity. So you're almost taking like an assessment beforehand to kind of give you a roadmap of what Gene Keys for you to contemplate on. So then you're treading the golden path, and you're using the Gene Keys as a creative companion. So you're using that hologenic profile to guide you on this journey through the Gene Keys. And there's three sequences first sequence is the activation sequence, where you discover your genius through your 4 prime gifts. Then you have the Venus sequence, opening your heart and relationships, followed by the Pearl sequence, in which you attain prosperity through service.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. And so these 3 sequences are collectively known as the golden path.
Mm.
Yep. So you contemplate the message of the gene keys, and you pay attention to the gene keys that make up the sequences on your golden path. And then you can go back to that website to get a deeper understanding of each sequence and its effect or role in your life. And then, as a creative companion, it says you might like to use this book like an oracle in the spirit of the original I Ching. You can open it at random in response to a question you have or a challenge you are facing. At such time, the gene key you find yourself reading often has an uncanny knack of highlighting the hidden essence of the issue. At the back of the book, you'll find a list of words known as the spectrum of consciousness. This lists the words for each of the 64 gene keys at each level of frequency. If you are experiencing a certain shadow state or are on the receiving end of a certain negative behavior, you can scan down the various words for the shadows until you find a gene key that matches that state. When you read that specific gene key, it can help you to see the hidden higher consciousness behind that state. And this can greatly enhance your compassion, either for others or for yourself. However you choose to use the Gene Keys book, it is intended as an ongoing creative companion rather than a book that you read and then discard.
Right.
Because the Gene Keys are an open system, you are invited to invent new ways of using them or adapting them in your life. The most important thing is to use your imagination and enjoy your journey. So that is the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, my offering.
Right. You might want to bring that to the front a little bit because it's disappearing a little.
Yeah, if I bring it to the front, it's going to disappear.
Oh, it's going to disappear all the way. Okay.
Yeah, or
okay.
Well, you still got the title.
Is that a lotus blossom on the front? What is that picture?
By the author's name?
No. The big picture, is that a sacred geometry circle or? Oh, okay, I can't tell from there, but I was so tempted. First of all, it's a beautiful offering. First of all, and I love to hear you read. So I was sitting here in my read space, but I was tempted to jump in and ask almost immediately: are there pictures? Are there illustrations?
Let's see.
I love books like this, the ones that you can use over and over and over and over and over again. I love them.
I won't say no, not really pictures, but each gene key has a different.
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to see that. Yeah. You have to put some pictures up when you give us a review.
Yeah. So, I'll just point to it. So,
okay, I see that.
Yeah, each gene key has like a different design.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. Almost like the I Ching a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was reminded of another book when you were speaking about that as well. Is Conversations with God. Like, it's this daily kind of walk book, kind of, you can use it every day, and all of that. But that, I love the Gene Keys. I've never heard of it, first of all. And so definitely got to put it on the list. But I really appreciate the fact that it's a walk with me over and over type book. Almost, so does it have a companion workbook, or is that something you kind of just deduce that you'll be creating in a notebook as you go along?
I haven't seen a companion book mentioned, but I also didn't look it up either to see if there
Right.
was a companion to, because sometimes the companion comes after the book,
Right.
so but they do, it sounds like there's a lot more information to go more deeply in the on the website too, because they mentioned the website a couple of times. And then in the back here, this the list that I was referring to in the
Mm,
forward, or the you know what, let me just take the virtual background down for a moment so I can
okay.
show you all this list. So let's do that. All right. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so they got the list of all the shadow
Oh,
pain
that's
terms
nice.
there. Yep. Yep. So you can use that to reference. And let me show you the gene keys. So
Okay.
that, and then yep. So that's the symbol up there right next to it. And then you notice when you go to another gene key, it's a different kind of symbol there. So that's how each of them are kind of broken up there.
Yeah, like I said, it made me think of several books, and it also, as you were talking, made me think about Akashic Records.
Oh
It made me think about that.
yeah.
Definitely the astrology part of it, but again, I was thinking sacred geometry as well, and walking that and unlocking those keys, and things like that. So I'm excited for this book. So when you received this book, was it something that you knew you were going to receive, or is it was just she found it and thought it would be a good fit for you?
Yeah. It was one of a few. Actually, I think the other two books I brought the unread as well. The instruction and
Yes.
the eight rules of love. So
Yes. Yes.
I received those three together, like
Okay.
that. So nope, I had no idea.
Wow. And so with this newfound, you said that we know we big on signs and symbols and things like that. So with these crossings of hearing about this book in these last couple of weeks or what have you, in the times that you have, what is that kind of telling you? Is that kind of making you want to dive in, or bring it to the front of the rotation, or kind of just,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I remember I have that book, but
yeah.
so what is it making you think? I mean, from flipping through it to share with us, does anything stood out, besides the things that you've read to us?
Yeah. It's yeah. I think it's telling me to bring it to the forefront, and I like just how you like that. It's a book that you can return to, repeatedly, and it's not a book that I have to necessarily read. I'll read like the introduction to kind of get a clear understanding of how to use it or how I might go about it. But I can. It sounds like it's the type of book where I can just focus on one chapter. I can spend a significant. I could spend a month on that one chapter.
Right.
Maybe not so much the act of reading it, because the chapters are pretty short, but just embodying the principles and applying the principles and observing and watching them kind of manifest and occur. I could spend an extensive amount of time doing that. So it kind of relieves the pressure of, well, I gotta go through this whole book, or go through or go through multiple sections of the book. Is kind of like I mentioned in the foreword. I can tailor my journey to my specific needs and
Right.
and how to go about it. I could, I could go through 50 gene keys, or I could spend a whole year just on three of them.
Right.
you know,
Right. It's how deep you want to go at the end of the
exactly.
day.
Yep.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And I really I resonate with that so deeply, Nick, is that we talk a lot about intuition. For those of us who for those of you joining Mawulisatemple in October, that's our intuition month, our inner vision. We always talk about, finding ways to tap into our intuition more and be led by our inner guide, our inner teacher, our inner voice, our higher self. In a book like this, being able to, like you said, tailor it to maybe take one or two keys and put them in a notebook and work with these two for some time. The only rush is the rush inside. That's it. There's no competition on the outside. There's no, hey, can I read this book faster and better than you? Or can I apply it better? Even if you just take one of those keys, if a person was to just take one and be able to truly, fully over and understand it, they've done more than the person that can read it from cover to cover. Cover to cover means nothing if you're not able to apply it. So I really do appreciate that you emphasize that fact, is that this is something to be applied, not just read.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Special emphasis on applied and not just read.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, because you got to ask people when they complain, or they say that, oh, it didn't work for me. You gotta ask, like, did you actually try it? Like, did you really try it? And when I mean try it, and here's a connection with the investing book. You can't, and I think you referred to it too, as like finding one thing and trying it, is you can't quit after 2 days.
Right,
After 2 days
right.
of saying it's not working. So with rewiring your DNA, whether it's rewiring your DNA, or if it's growing your nest egg, to retire at some point, you can't pick out one strategy and only try it for like 5 minutes and then give up on it because it's not working right away.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's where that discipline comes in. In my offering is that, it's much like with the spiritual aspect of it. The discipline is not just about saving the dollar. The discipline is about being able to stay with the dollar. You understand what I'm saying? Being able to slow down, and what is this dollar teaching me? How can I change this dollar around and use it in every most practical and possible way to help me to better, first of all, understand myself and what it is I'm trying to accomplish. I think a lot of times, much like with any other place, we come into these, spaces where people are reading all these really profound books, and they are profound books. But it's just like, if you reading them just for the sake of to say, oh, well, I read that and I read this and I read that and I read this, and now look at your life and it's not reflective of anything that I saw in any of those books, it doesn't matter that you read them. You don't know
Mhm.
how to apply them. So taking something, like that has such a great offering of opportunities inside of it, choosing a couple and knowing that you can take those and go deeper and deeper. I think that's a great practice for starting to learn to go deeper in other spaces as well. Like I said, I could definitely see the companion notebook writing side of that, because you should end up with quite a few notes, if you will, to say the least, in delving into something like that.
Yeah, even if a lot of it is just journaling,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because it kind of sounds like there's a bit of shadow work in here too when it comes to dealing with those shadows and those list of words that I show, because it has a column says sit he or sit high, gift, and then shadow. The gift is almost like
Mm,
the positive, and the shadow is like the negative or the challenging,
right.
you know. So that definitely bit of shadow work and journaling. So, like you said, that discipline. And then this book also talks about prosperity and abundance as well, but the connection between prosperity and service. So you can get your prosperity through smart investing, and you get your prosperity by using what you said, that currency and that energetic exchange on a metaphysical level, and putting out that energy of prosperity and attraction through selfless and honest service, and not service out of expectation for something in return. So I think we did it again. We connected them without pulling our shoulders out and reaching. We were
We
able to make
did. We did. And
ourselves.
it's just amazing, true wealth, true wealth is being able to walk this journey well. And when I say well, that doesn't mean without challenges. Challenges are important. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that that book will highlight that in some way, that the challenges we face force us to face ourselves sometimes in ways that we would not, just like in the finance aspect of it, losing your spouse then makes you in a position that you weren't in before to have to look at things differently. So, and learning how to do something after a long time, sometimes you go into things like these guides, like with these keys, and I'm sure they're telling you very basic ways to reconnect with yourself, or for most, connecting with themselves for the first time. And sometimes with the finance, even if you are a person of a particular age, it may be the first time you really looked at your finances seriously. You know what I mean? As to what your desired outcome is. One of the things that they pointed out in that book, the lazy person's guide for investing, is that when you're doing what you love, and it ties back to what you said about service, when you're doing what you love, you are in the state of wealth. You are in a state of wealth because you're doing the work. You know what I mean? And I know for someone like me, and that's even come up on this platform and other ones that we've shared, Nick, is that I do get pleasure out of service. I knew I was for service from the time I was a little girl. It's not, for me, it was never about leading, it was about supporting. I'm a hell of a leader, but man, when you got me supporting you, you got something else going on too. You know what I'm saying? And so learning that, service is just as fulfilling as, leading, and sometimes even more. You know what I mean? It really does lend to both spaces in our books that talk about a type of freedom that only comes with the knowledge of autonomy and the ability to choose for ourselves and the ability to create the worlds that we want to see.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, we need to be the masters, because we are the masters of our destiny, and we create our own reality. And that's what these two offerings today, when we bring them together, that's what they ultimately show us. in the material, the spiritual, every plane of existence. Love
Absolutely. Well, I think we got another one in the books and two more
it.
books for people to add to their list. I know that Nick is going to have all that information up underneath this video. If this was your first time joining us on Unread, we do hope you come back and join us again. Please feel free to leave your comments, your information, anything right down there in the comments, or come on over to Instagram and hang with us over there, where sometimes we even go live and talk about stuff. But we are over there at Mr. Westbrooks, and I am at Mawulisatemple 1. We are always there for you to be able to connect with. For those of you who are our loyal and faithful bookheads like the rest of us, we thank you for coming back and giving us another opportunity, to share some books with you before 2025 is gone. I cannot believe it. I'm so excited about the books. I have to be honest, Nick. I done already started compiling my list for what I want to bring next time. When I was putting all these books back on the shelf, I'm like, well, let me pull this one out and this one
Ooh,
out. So
okay.
you better be ready for some fire for
Oh
26
boy.
is all I'm saying. I always come in hot. I always do. But for
Yeah.
those of you who have worked with us and been with us all year long, we thank you. If you've read any of the books or recommended the books that we've shared with you, please tell us. Let us know. What did you think? Did we offer you a good review? Hey, come in, add on. I can tell you one of the books that I want to revisit that I brought, in 25 is the Thomas Paine book. I want to be able to bring that one back again because with the political atmosphere we have going on right now, it's so much more to talk about from that book, that I wasn't able to extract that first time of being able to bring it. And that's the beauty of Unread, bringing back books that we've read, been in, brought back, thought about, had recommended. This is your space for that, everybody. And we thank you for allowing us to be here with you and share these things. This is what we love to do. This is our service. This is our love. This is our financial investment. Like I said, we invest in people. We are investing in you. We are giving you our Saturday afternoons, and we are bringing to you information that most times we took a week or two preparing. So we're giving you that. We're gifting you that because we believe that it is important to invest in our community with things like this, because the return, the desired outcome for us is for us all to live and walk in a way that is conducive to the way that we want to live our lives. So I am very, very grateful, and I'm just so excited about what we've done and what we have to come. I'm excited about all the laughs that we had this year, and all the ups and downs, technical difficulties and otherwise. Even me dipping out to sleep one day. We can't forget that. We can't forget that one because I
No.
won't. But but I will say it has been an amazing year, and I look forward to more, Nick. And that book, please make sure that you put that book back up there again and let everybody know, because I feel like that's one we all should have on our shelves. And I think I would love to see, maybe, Nick, I don't know about you, but I would love to see us all get this book and everybody grab one key and decide to work with it and maybe come together and talk about what key we chose,
True.
and what we plan
True.
on doing with that particular key. Sounds like a challenge, right, Nick?
It does.
It sounds like a challenge.
It
Maybe
does.
we'll offer a prize at the end of that, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know. We in
Maybe.
hibernation season. We come up with some kooky ideas during this time. So believe me, keep your ears and eyes open and those notification bells on, because we are here to bring you updated information, lots of fun in these unread books. I'm your sister Roo. I am going to enjoy this snowstorm that we got going on. So I got my books out and I'm going to curl up in a nice little space. I'm going to give it to my brother Nick, and he's going to take us up on out this place today.
Uh,
Thank you, everybody. I have enjoyed 2025 with you.
yep. Well, I'm gonna, enjoy some I'm gonna join my books too. I'm gonna pull out my numerology books and do some numbers and enjoy my beverages and my food. And we will see you next month, January. Let's get the date. January 10th, it looks like. January 10th is when we will be back for episode 38. So
first of 2026.
Yeah, the first of 2026. So thank you all. We'll see you next time, next episode.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.